we record these meetings so that we can have our speakers, the recording of the speaker on our Facebook page and on our Instagram, Twitter, and on our website. So
I love that.
Okay. There we
Good
go.
evening. Good to see you.
Hi, Daryl.
Good to see you all. I don't think I met most of you, so.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes.
You got it, Brenda. You're on.
So, I'll start off with seeing if Gina wants to open us up with prayer.
I was actually saying hello to Daryl and to you and to everybody. Yes, thank you, Lord, for bringing us together and for us connecting in terms of important things that we would like to do for ourselves and our community and our country and the world, to spread good human relations worldwide and make this a better world. Thank you, Lord. Amen.
Amen.
All right. Thank you, Gina.
Thanks, Gina.
Right now, Gina, could you introduce yourself to Daryl?
Oh, actually, Daryl and I have met a couple of times. Indeed, the latest was when Dr. Jackson was holding his little assembly over at the library from the college.
Yeah.
In fact, I chewed his ear off at that time. And I realized I need to follow through. I've got some stuff to send Daryl and so forth. So, most of you, I believe, know me. I haven't seen the entire list of participants, but if you don't, I'm Gina Estrin with Citizen Advocates for Seniors and Homeless Solutions, or CASHES for short. And that's kind of the central point of my passion, but it kind of extends out because it really encompasses almost everything, including affordable housing and other things. So I'm just here to try and glean information and help guide everyone when I can. That's
all right. Mary, you want to introduce you? Daryl, you know Mary?
We've spoken.
Okay.
I know we've spoken a couple times, and
but we haven't ever met.
So yeah, I would love to meet and hear your introduction as well, Ms.
Yes. My name's Mary Morse, and I'm the treasurer of Human Relations Council. Been with the organization since the year 2000, long time. And I'm just very, very happy to hear the assembly member speak today about his plans for supporting our area. So thanks for being here, Daryl. And I see the assembly member is actually, here you are. You're on you're on the call too. Great.
Absolutely. Happy to be here.
Thank you.
And then, Professor, you want to introduce yourself?
Are we talking to me?
Felicity,
Yes,
yes.
I don't consider myself professor, but just a humble servant of a community college, Southwestern Community College, and my husband and I moved to Hemet 2 years ago. Still trying to find out where things are, but immensely gratified by everything that everyone is doing. And thank you very much.
And then, let's see who's next. I guess I will introduce myself, but I am Malcolm Lilienthal, Mayor Pro Tem of Hemet, and also serving as the Human Relations Council's president. And that's about it. We have also Mark Baskett, who is a part of, what position is he?
He's a member.
He's for programs, and he's also on our homeless committee and the Human Relations
I'm the
Council.
loudmouth guy that said we needed a standing committee on homeless.
We also
encouraged Malcolm to join this group, and brought Julie along with me. and I'm opinionated, and I love the good people here.
And
Awesome.
he's also known as troublemaker, just to let you know.
Oh, yeah. Of course.
Well, that comes with being an attorney sometimes. So
Well, I will introduce Dr. Corey Jackson. So I wrote a little, if I could find it real quick, I wrote a little thing to make it sound all official, right? So it is my pleasure to introduce Assemblymember Dr. Corey A. Jackson, DSW, MSW, who was elected to represent the 60th Assembly District in November last year. And Assemblymember Corey Jackson has dedicated his life to public service, making a difference in his community through education, community organizing, and mentoring. And he served on the Riverside County Board of Education in 2020 and representing portions of Riverside, Moreno Valley, Paris, and some unincorporated community of like Mead Valley. And as the founder of and CEO of SBX Youth and Family Services, he has been instrumental in breaking the cycle of poverty and violence in his community through his organization's mission to provide mentoring, education, and community organizing. So his work with SBX Youth and Family Services played a critical role in the historic settlement of a lawsuit against the unconstitutional Youth Accountability Team program in Riverside County, which affected thousands of youth, especially those of color. So Dr. Jackson is an alumnus of CSU, San Bernardino, where he earned a degree in political science and served on the CSU Board of Trustees as chair of the Santo Manuel Student Union Board of Directors. He also holds a Master of Social Work and a Doctorate of Social Work degree from CBU. And Assemblymember Jackson's commitment to serving his community and dedication to public service I've seen is truly inspiring, and we are honored to have him as a member of the California State Legislature. And we are honored to have you here today, sir, and I yield the floor to you.
Thank you, Councilman. Appreciate you. Appreciate your leadership and your representation. Folks, it's an honor to be here. I am still in Sacramento right now. Once I'm done with you, I jump on a flight to come back home. And I think overall what's just important, of course, is that the 60th Assembly District I call the District of Neglected Cities. When our cities were a part of other districts, we were usually left out. We rarely saw our representatives. We rarely saw investments coming from the state budget in our cities. And if we did, while others got $1,000, we usually got 50 cents. And, you know, we just, we now have an opportunity, right, to anchor our own district. So Moreno Valley, Paris, Hemet, I have about half of Hemet, and I have all of San Jacinto. Of course, the unincorporated areas of Nuevo, Good Hope, Lakeview, and Mead Valley. And so just happy to represent hardworking people who are, unfortunately, too many of us are in survival mode. And my ultimate goal is making sure that people understand that it's not okay for us just to survive. We have a right to thrive. And how do we make sure we make the type of investments necessary to making sure that as many of us can thrive as possible, breaking cycles of poverty, and continuing to address historic inequities, and rooting out systemic racism from our institutions and our systems as well. I'm wrapping up my third month in the legislature right now. I am one of only 6 freshmen who became a chair of a committee their first term. And so I serve as chair of the Human Services Committee, whose job is to take care of all of our social safety net programs. So we're talking about CalWorks, we're talking about CalFresh, we're talking about services for the disability community, services for our seniors, services for our foster children and the child welfare system that comes with that. And so it's a big purview. But of course, I was asked to be chair because of I'm the only social worker in the state assembly out of 80 members. And so I've been busy to say the least. I also, though, sit on the accompanying budget committee to making sure that we have a seat at the table when it comes to what new investments to make, what things we need to preserve, and most importantly, what we should and should not cut as we head into a challenging budget year. And so I spend a lot of time in budget hearings, making sure that I master the process, because the ones who do their homework, the ones who do the studying and understand the budget process are usually the ones who are able to get the most investments home and help to direct the overall budget for the state. I also sit on the transportation committee. And so all of our roads, bridges, trains, that type of infrastructure, as well as our EV infrastructure, trucking, right? All those things, we do that as well. I also sit on the Business and Professions Committee, which is basically if you need a certification or a license from the state for your profession, we oversee all of those boards that give those licenses and certifications. And then I sit on the Jobs and Economic Development Committee as well. And so I sit on 5 committees. I also chair the Select Committee on California's mental health crisis. And so I'm taking the lead in the assembly to making sure that, number one, we admit that we are in a crisis in California, and that we make the subsequent investments to ensure that we address the crisis that we're in. What does that mean? That means that, number one, when you talk about mental health, those that are hit the hardest, number one, are Native American brothers and sisters. Number two, African Americans as well. And then it's important to know that our U.S. Surgeon General has declared mental health a national crisis. And along with that, particularly a crisis with our young people. And so what are we going to do to make sure that we meet the moment that we're in terms of this crisis as well? So that's where I am in terms of the workings of the legislature itself. In terms of what my priorities are as a whole, are a few things. Number one, my first bill is AB 11 that I just got out of its first committee this week. And AB 11 is the Affordable California Act. And that is to bring together all the research and all the studies that have been done and centralize it and streamline it to give to the legislature on what legislative fixes do we need to make in the structure of California to make California affordable again. We all know, and many of us have had the similar stories, that many of us and our families have come out here not here in Sacramento, but out here, meaning where we live, because of affordable living, right? But the way things are going right now is that we are the last to benefit from affordable living. And after the 60th Assembly District, if you keep going east, guess what? You can't go to Coachella anymore because of it's becoming more of a tourist attraction, and that's getting more expensive, right? So where's next? Next is Arizona. And so we're the last stop. And if we don't turn things around, there will no longer be any place in California to go to be able to have affordable living. And so number one, how to make California affordable again. Number two, dealing with our mental health crisis. Number three, we need to expand and strengthen our childcare system so that we can unlock the gifts and the talents of all people who would like to be in the workforce, but can't because of childcare issues. And then probably lastly, of course, is a lot of systemic things that, that continue to plague us as not only a state, but as a country, as it relates to we are seeing more and more again. And as we head into the presidential election, we're going to see more and more demonizing and division and rhetoric to divide people, to dehumanize one another. And we have got to do all that we can to push back against that so that all people can live with the dignity and humanity that they that we all should be able to enjoy. A few other bills that I have is I also have a trucking bill to be able to transition our trucks to more cleaner fuel. Meaning it's time we've got to get our trucks off of diesel because if not, we will continue to have the worst air quality in the nation. And the reason why we have the worst air quality in the nation is partly because of our geography. We live in valleys, and when you live in valleys, that pollution can't escape. It can't get over the mountains. So that means it sits with us longer. Right? Which means we breathe dirtier air for a longer period of time than others who don't live in a valley experience. And so we've got to figure out how we can clean up the air quicker, but also provide independent truck owners with the resources necessary to be able to afford the transition off of diesel fuel. And so a whole host of issues. Everyone celebrates that California is the 4th largest economy now in the world, but with that comes a lot of complications. There's a lot of diverse populations. There's a whole lot of policies and procedures and laws that you have to be able to maneuver around to get to the source of the various issues. And I think the most important thing is to understand that all the quick fixes are over. There are nothing but hard problems to solve now, which means that it's going to take a lot of studying, research, and a lot of questions to be able to get to the heart of some of the most pressing matters that we are facing, not only as a region in the Inland Empire and the 60th Assembly District, but of course, as a state and as a nation. The exciting part is that the California legislature is probably the most influential legislature in the nation. And what I mean by that is when we pass bills, everyone else take notes. And they usually copy what we do, or they do the opposite and they say, well, hey, we don't like California, so we're going to do the opposite, right? The nation and the world reacts to what we do. And which means that if we are thoughtful about what we do and about solving the issues that we're dealing with, then chances are we're actually helping to solve issues where people in the whole nation and all over the world are dealing with as well, right? And so with that comes a great responsibility to be able to do so. So as it relates to human relations and diversity, I actually do have a couple of bills that are dealing with that. As you remember, especially in the height of the murder of George Floyd, we saw that many municipalities and many county agencies were declaring racism a public health crisis. But the challenge was no one knew exactly how to solve the problem. City managers and county CEOs and others were like, yeah, we understand, but we don't understand what we can do to be able to solve the problem. So I actually have a bill to require state and county agencies to do what's called anti-racist audits, to be able to look at our policies, our practices, our budgets, our culture that our agencies develop, to see if there are weaknesses in making sure that our systems are more equitable and more fair and more objective in terms of how they treat people and how they lead people. And so that bill will require that we begin with state and county agencies to do a thoughtful examination into how we do things. There are a lot of good people working in our government, but they are forced to implement policies that were created a long time ago. And with that, many of these policies, it's hard to trace the origin of those policies, those practices. And so an anti-racist audit helps you to begin to understand or identify some harmful practices that in the past were just the way we do things. But it turns out that, well, that's why when we look at our data, we have the disparities and the disproportionality in so many areas, is because we have policies and practices that actually create that disproportionality. So it helps people to get to the source of the problem. The second bill that I have really deals with hate crimes. And as you know, we have a high rate of hate crimes than we've ever had before. And the bill basically creates a hate crime unit in the State Department of Public Health. So if a hate crime occurs, there's a team that goes into that community and brings community leaders and organizations together to create a plan to prevent those things from happening again, to push back from the labeling and the targeting and the demonization of other people, right? So that people have the tools in their own hands to be able to help address the issues in those particular communities. What I'm most excited about is that the bill also creates the California Ad Council. And the California Ad Council is designed to be similar to what the National Ad Council does, which means they do public service announcements. Probably the most popular or infamous infomercial was the Love Means Love, the Love is Love commercials that we used to see a lot before. Also the ones that this is your brain on drugs, right? And you saw the eggs boil of the eggs. This is your brain and this is your brain on drugs, right? That was all done through the National Ad Council. Well, we're creating a California Ad Council to educate the public in a proactive way about the benefits and the uniqueness of the various populations that we have in California, particularly educating people about the ones who have been most victimized by hate crimes, right? So you're talking about African Americans, you're talking about the Jewish community, you're talking about the rising in the API community as well, right? Those are usually the top three that you see. And depending on national, international issues. You can include the Muslim population. You include the Sikhs, because some people think that the Sikhs are Muslims. And so all they can see is that they have a turban on their head, and all that means is evil, right? We saw that after 9/11. And then you have those, and then and now there's a big targeting on the trans community, as well as the next boogeyman that we all should be afraid of, and we all need to protect our kids from, right? All of that rhetoric is what is what causes unhealthy people to do horrific things, right? And so the Ad Council is meant to be able to make sure that on our social media, newspaper, TV, wherever we are beginning to say, uplift the dignity and humanity for all groups to help to protect them from being the boogeyman at the time. So those are the top two issues that I do and that I'm working on. Now, before I came here, before I came to the legislature, I also created what's called the Center Against Racism and Trauma. And we do an annual anti-racist summit. Well, I'm proud to say that we're still going to be doing the third annual anti-racist summit next week on the 21st. And every March 21st is the International Day for the Elimination of Racial Discrimination. The impetus was during the apartheid movement of South Africa. And since then, every year on March 21st is an international day that is facilitated by the United Nations. So every year we do an anti-racist summit on that day. And if it falls on a Sunday or something, we do it the day before or the day after. Our first time that we had it 2 years ago, well, now would have been 3 years ago, is we had Dr. Ibram Kendi, the author of How to Be an Anti-Racist. And then last year we had Dr. Robin DiAngelo of the book White Fragility. This year we have LeVar Burton. And many of you know LeVar Burton as back in the day of Reading Rainbow, the actor on Star Trek, the star of Roots, the show Roots as well. Well, he will be speaking from the perspective of now this new nationalist white supremacist movement of banning books. And his perspective and he actually, the cool thing is he has a series on social media from time to time where he actually reads the books that have been banned by other communities, right? And if you look up LeVar Burton, My Story, he has a YouTube series of him telling stories of racism that he experienced as well. And so we think it'll be a great opportunity to continue to reignite dialogue on what we all need to do to make sure that these racist and nationalist and quite frankly fascist movements that pop up from time to time, right? If you know your history, it happens in cycles. Well, guess what? It's happening again. We're in that cycle. And just like past generations had to fight for it and stand up and do uncomfortable things to quell the hurt and destruction that comes with these things, it's now our turn again to have to do it again as well. And so I will put in the chat the website you can go to to register for the Anti-Racist Summit. It's via Zoom. We always do it on Zoom. We usually have 200 to 800 people any given year. Racism.org/events. So if you go to destroyracism.org and go to events, you will see the flyer there to be able to register. And as always, every year is totally free to be able to experience. And there will be a Q&A section as well, where you can actually ask LeVar Burton some questions also. And so with that, I am at your service. I tell people all the time, I work for you, because it's the truth. That's what the Constitution says. I work for you. And it is not an honor for you to meet me. It's an honor for me to serve you. And it is important that you make sure that you all have met Daryl Fry, who's my representative for your region of the district of San Jacinto and Hemet. And his job is to help you take care of the needs that you have or the concerns that you have, and to make sure that it gets to me. And if you have any issues with any state agencies, our job is to help to contact them on your behalf when you have had a hard time with EDD, with SSI, with the DMV, with all kinds of other state agencies that are out there. We have our own special number we can call that puts you as a priority to be able to solve those issues. And so please utilize us, because that's what we're here for as well. And with that, I'm more than happy to take any questions that you all may have.
Thank you, Corey. Let's thank you, Assemblymember. Let's start with Gina.
You were speaking about the banning of books and everything. I recently, through either George or the Press Enterprise, I forgot what source, they were talking about how Florida, oh no, it was a cousin of mine that lives in Florida, Aaron Barron. How Florida has banned a whole host of books, which, I mean, as my generation was growing up, they were school texts. And I mean, the one comment on Facebook was that, well, they're trying to not show anything that puts the United States in a bad light. But I'm sorry, our history is loaded with it. And it's not just America, but, you know, worldwide. And as you mentioned, things are coming back around now.
Yep.
Yeah. So do you have any way to stem the flow of this book banning? And
I'm glad you asked, because I forgot. I am the author of the banning of books. And so I have a bill that says if a school district wants to ban any curriculum or books, they have to get state approval first, so that we have another check and balance. People ask me, well, what about local control? Well, I say, well, as soon as you start pushing parts of a white supremacist movement, you have now given up local control, because we have to protect everybody. Now think about this. Temecula, Murrieta, and they're trying to do it also in Corona Norco, right? Imagine if you were a child or a parent and your child went to a school in those districts, and now there's even less of a chance that their child will see themselves in the curriculum. There's less of a chance that their own ancestry and culture will be highlighted and respected, right? We have to be careful here. And so I add another layer of accountability when it comes to that. So yes, I have authored that bill.
Okay. One other
Ew.
part, sorry. Never mind, went in one brain, out the other.
That's
Okay.
all right. It'll come back when it comes back around. You let us know, okay?
Okay.
I have a question.
Yep.
My question is, how can an organization like ours, which is a private nonprofit, connect with the organization that you started, the CART? I've studied
CART,
your
yeah.
organization. I love it, and I'm already signed up for the Anti-Racist Summit. So, but how can we collaborate? Is there a way?
There is a way. As a matter of fact, her name is Janice Roots, who have taken over since I had to go to since I went to the legislature. And we can do a few things. We also have what's sometimes quarterly anti-racist town halls where we discuss the issues of the day, and people can actually really engage. And there's really people who they need help to process, right? And have a safe space where they won't feel like if your question will be used against you, right? Or that you don't have a place where you can emote your feelings when it comes to these things. And so people can have a personal thing that they can all do in order to be productive and fight against these things. And so we have those opportunities. And then there's also opportunities that if you yourself want to help organize the community, we can support you in doing that as well.
Thank you. Thank you.
Mhm.
Felicity, you're muted.
Thank you. I wanted to thank you for astonishing presentation. I'm at awe. I don't know how old you are, but hey, Amanda, I mean, I'm going to start praying for you, man. I'm not kidding. I swear, I mean, like, whoa. I'm a Southwestern Community College, and we always have this issue for part-time associates faculty with the EDD. They constantly write to them and say, you're rejected. Why? Because this is a recess. We don't have a recess. We're not. It is, I'm not kidding. I've been there since 1999. Every single darn year, part-timers go through this, and then they get called back. Then they have to go back. They have to go back. So how can we approach your, I don't know if, I hate putting more stuff on your plate, but you opened up the door.
No, that's my job. And so I would say, reach out to Daryl Fry. He put his information in the chat. And we can begin to think about if there is a bill I can introduce next year that might qualify you all from being able to get that assistance. I mean, at the end of the day, I understand the community college issue, especially if you are a adjunct professor. And so the idea of they bring you on when they need you, and then they throw you away when they don't. And which means that you're unable to get the type of health benefits and other things that others would enjoy. And then, of course, that time when you're unable to find work at the on campus, you also don't have any assistance when it comes to that as well. And so more than happy to discuss a legislative fix to that for next year that I can introduce.
God bless you. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. Brenda?
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, I have some stuff going in the background, so sorry about that. We're having a birthday party for my grandson. Hi, very happy to meet you. I'm Brenda Scott, and I'm with NAMI. That's the National Alliance on Mental Illness, and I'm executive director, so I really appreciate a lot of the things that you have to say, and that your platform is so much for mental health, because it's really been my fight for the last 30 years. So, and I would look forward to meeting you sometime and really talking. I'm also on the Riverside University Health System Behavioral Health. I'm on their commission. I'm vice chair, so I'm pretty involved with the county. And everything you say rings very true. So many things that need to be addressed in our county, in our state, and in our nation. And I just really appreciate you and your platform. And I'm very pleased to meet you.
No problem. It's a pleasure to meet you too. And I would just leave you with this. I think, was it last weekend, Daryl, when I was at San Jacinto College? Was it last weekend or the weekend before? I did a town hall. The weekend before, I did a town hall at San Jacinto Community College for folks in the past to be able to, or in the Valley, to be able to engage with me in person. The next time I will be out there in that type of capacity, but you'll usually see me at different events and things like that out there. But in terms of an actual community forum, will be Saturday, September 30th at 11 a.m. And we don't have a location yet for that. But that'll be another time where I give another report out on the work that I'm doing as your all's representative. And I said before, but we will be in Hemet for that one. And when we're in Hemet, as you know, I represent half of Hemet. Assemblymember Eduardo Garcia represents the other half of Hemet. So we have agreed that we're both doing this community forum together, so that no matter where you live in Hemet, your representative will be there to make sure that they hear from us. So that's something that we've committed to, and we both agreed on September 30th. That will be the time that we do so. Okay, so once again, how can we make sure, right, that we're more accessible, that you have more time? If you're our representative, if we're your representative, right, and you don't have an opportunity to talk with us, then are we really your representative, right?
Yeah.
Our job is to represent your voice, but if we don't hear your voice, but that's my pet peeve. Why I chose to run. So we want to make sure that we're as accessible as possible. But as you know, as we begin to ramp up on solving our budget woes as a state, we'll be called to stay in Sacramento longer as time goes by. So right now, I try to come down every weekend to making sure that I meet with as many folks as possible to hear their concerns.
Gina?
Did you just call me?
Yes.
Okay, good, thank you. Yeah, talking about the mental health situation, in the county has property in Hemet, and there's been a move to have a recovery village built there. And at a recent city council meeting, as Mayor Lilienthal knows, they voted to rescind their support, which they had previously submitted last year. And part of what the council people brought up in opposition was that their constituents don't want it where they want to put it. And it kind of irked me that, you know, they're just throwing this concept out, and yet no particular support of the numbers, how many really meant the people don't want. And even at the meeting, the number of positive speakers far outweighed the number of negative speakers. Yet, as they say, the negative were the louder, squeakier wheel. So that kind of planted in my brain that somehow I wish we could establish how important it is to put it where it's supposed to, where it was recommended to be, because in terms of treating people with mental health issues that might need transportation, it's right on a bus line. I looked at the county map, and if you exclude the desert area, we're smack in the middle of the western and middle portion of the county. So logistically, that's a good place to be. Now, mind you, that's the other complaint they have, is they didn't want people coming from outside to get services here, which it's beyond my brain to fathom.
Well,
this.
that's the old school boogeyman strategy that has what put us not only in this mental health crisis, but this homeless crisis, right? We don't live in communities anymore. We just live on streets, right? We don't really believe in the idea of having a neighbor and looking out for each other and making sure that we're doing things that's in the best interest of the community as a whole, not just as an individual household. And it's that type of thinking that has gotten us where we are today. And we have got to do all that we can to push against that. Of course, the issue that you're saying is a local issue. And so that I mean, meaning there's nothing I can personally do about it. But what I can do is what I have another bill that will do a 5-cent candy tax to be able to go towards local mental health facilities and programs, mental health programs for our young people. So that at least when the cities or county knows that we need more facilities, they actually have more resources to do so. Right now, all we have is the millionaire's tax that funds mental health in California. But believe it or not even the mental health tax is enough to cover the amount of needs that we have for mental health. And particularly in Hemet and San Jacinto, where there is just a service desert, period. To push away programs for a community that needs it the most out of almost any part of the county except Coachella, with the farm workers that are out there, is counterintuitive, because we are now we are worsening the problem, right, for that future generations are going to have to suffer for. And so, you know, I think that my job is to make sure the resources is there, and then we can all work together to make sure that our that we can convince and assure our local representatives, right, that, you know, trust me, that whole people are not going to come because of that. There's plenty of people already in the community who are in need of it as well, right? But they got to hear more, right? We got to change the narrative when it comes to those things.
Would your support, Malcolm, I'm kind of addressing this towards you because would Dr. Jackson support help maybe open up the eyes of the naysayers on the city council? I'm trying to look at a way to try and move forward more quickly.
Yeah, I think his support would help, but it's mainly the county themselves. They need to come out and do forums. They're the ones that need to come out, and so they failed last year to do the forums. And I kind of warned them that this area was going to fight it. So if you come out and do forums, I bet you could reach at least 60,000 other people in Hemet that would be for it. Because just like to your point earlier, when it's about the numbers, right? If I asked the county to see if they could do some polling, here, and they're going to look into that to see if they can fit it in their budget to hire a consultant to actually poll the city of Hemet, so they can come back with actual numbers about like what percentage of Hemet is for the project and what percentage is not.
It would be a little tipping point if we say not just to poll Hemet, but to poll everyone in the San Jacinto Valley, because I know the sentiment in San Jacinto, in the city of San Jacinto, is equally as negative as I heard at the Hemet City Council.
Yes. So they are going to include Bella Vista, like all of this,
Okay.
but they're mainly going to focus. They're mainly going to focus on Hemet because that's where it's being built.
And I have a homeless thing I'm trying to do in San Jacinto.
Yeah.
I'm done. Thank you.
But
Okay.
Anything else before I have to go? I have to catch a flight or I won't get home.
yeah.
And so
I would like to say one thing. I want to thank Daryl for helping to arrange this today. And I also want to thank Misael Tovar Diaz from your office, who came to our Black History Month essay contest award ceremony on Friday night and represented your office very, very well. He was there the whole time. He was great.
wow, it looks like he's gonna have a job a little longer now.
There you go. There you go. You can keep him around for a while. He was terrific. He helped us a lot. He was great.
It's a pleasure, and you know, I have built, I think, a team that I'm very proud of that will serve you all well while I'm here in Sacramento, and will. I'm very proud of this team that we've assembled. That also reflects the diversity of this district as well, and so very happy. I'm glad you're happy, and if you're ever not happy, you let me know.
You got it.
We appreciate you, Dr.
All right.
Corey Jackson, and safe travels.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you all very much. Please let me know how I can serve you even more.
Okay.
Thank
Have a
you,
good one.
Dr. Jackson.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.